Mr. and Mrs. Griffin, it's such a pleasure to see you again. Thank you again for getting all of that requested information back to me so quickly after our last meeting. I wanted to thank you for taking the time today, and I know that you mentioned that we only have about 20 minutes today, so I'm going to try to get through as much information as I can. It's a lot of information, so if at any point along the way you have any questions, feel free to stop and ask me, and also afterwards, you're going to be getting a client binder that has all of this information in it. So when you get home, if there are any questions or follow-up that you want to discuss, feel free to contact me and I'll be happy to review it with you. So let's get started. I wanted to start by reviewing the process with you again. The first step in the process is establishing and defining the relationship, which we did in our last meeting, and we also gathered all of your information and defined your goals in the last meeting. Last time, I provided you with an engagement letter, and we also completed the risk tolerance questionnaire and investment policy together. I've included copies of those previously executed documents in your client binder. Once we completed that, I analyzed and evaluated your financial situation, and what we're going to do today is review the results of that and discuss any recommendations. This is a high-level summary of some of the basic information that we collected in our last meeting, and this really gives me a good idea of where you are in the life cycle. Now let's take a moment to review your goals. These are listed in order of priority. Number 1, you wanted to make sure you're saving for 4-year college education, preferably at Florida State, for all 3 children. You want to focus on reducing debt and also reducing the amount of payments per month that are going towards debt. You want to try to retire at age 62 with 70% of your income, plus Social Security on top of that. You also want to ensure adequate risk management and also that you have proper insurance coverage. Then, you also want to make sure that your investment strategy is in line with helping you reach your goals. And lastly, you want to review estate planning needs. This is your income statement, and it shows the cash inflows and outflows per year. Currently, you have $85,000 of income coming in. On the cash outflow section, one of the major areas here is the debt payment. Currently, you have $50,000 going out in debt payments per year. Most of this is in mortgage payments. However, you'll see, based on my recommendations, that we can significantly reduce the amount of payments going out for debt. The second area that I want to focus on here is your tax situation. Currently, you're having $15,000 withheld for taxes, and you'll see here in the presentation that this is actually an increased amount. I think we'll be able to reduce the amount you're withholding, creating a positive cash flow in future years. Lastly, I want to address living expenses. This is an area that can typically be trimmed by creating a monthly spending budget, or what we call a spending plan. So I want to work on that with you as well. This is your current balance sheet, which lists all of your assets as well as your liability and gives us your net worth. Over time, we really want to focus on increasing your assets and reducing liabilities, which will increase your net worth. We also want to put special focus on increasing your liquid assets. Currently, your total assets are at $498,000 and your liabilities total $317,000, making your current net worth approximately $244,000. This is an analysis that focuses on risk management to evaluate your current insurance coverage. You can see here that I've included the ideal targets, which is what we use to evaluate your insurance needs. For life insurance, John, you can see here that there's a target of 12 to 16 times the coverage of your gross income. And currently you're at 0.29. So I'm recommending that we increase that. What I'm recommending is a 30-year term policy for 1.5 million. The importance of this, John, is that if something happens to you, you want to make sure that Jackie is able to pay off the house, pay for college tuition for all 3 children, and have additional funds to help her with her lifestyle throughout the rest of her life, being that she is not working currently. Jackie, it's also recommended that you purchase term life insurance for those same reasons. If something happens to you, John would need to secure child care for the children. It would also be helpful to be able to provide some funding towards college education, maybe towards a nanny, cleaning staff, those types of things. For health insurance, everything looked great there, so I don't recommend any changes. And for disability, John, I'm recommending that you increase your coverage to 100% of your income. This will make sure that if something happens, you're not stuck with a limited amount of cash flow. For the homeowner's insurance, the ratio currently is at 67%, and really we want to be at 80%. But based on what your insurance professional said, that there's not really a way for you to get a reduced rate at this time, I would highly recommend shopping around for that, possibly waiting for a better deal, and then increasing it to at least 80% when an opportunity presents itself. For auto insurance, you currently have minimal coverage, and I actually did some digging and found that you could increase your limits to 100, 300 and actually not have any impact on your premium. So I highly recommend that. What we're looking at here on the 3-panel financial short-term slide is targets for liquidity, monthly housing costs, as well as debt payments. And at the very top, you can see that the optimal liquidity would be 3 to 6 months. I'm recommending a 6-month emergency fund for an amount of $21,000. Currently, you're at 1.72 months. And once we implement these recommendations, you'll be around 8 months. Of course, we can take some of those funds, some of the additional cash, and invest them into a portfolio. Secondly, here, the housing expenses. The target is to keep housing expenses under 28% of your gross income. Right now, it's 33, almost 34%. Once we implement these recommendations of refinancing the mortgage, we'll be reducing that payment from $1,970 per month to $1,336 per month. And then also, by implementing these debt payments, we'll be significantly reducing debt from 65% down to 31%. And then long term, your overall financial security. So right now, you are at a rate of 9.9%. I think that significantly reducing the debt and increasing savings and also putting a plan in place to cover education is going to give you overall financial security, and that would increase this to 26, almost 27%. So significant results there based on the recommendations that I'm going to be giving you. Building an adequate education fund, you're at 0 right now because you don't have a plan in place, and this analysis isn't really accounting for the fact that you have a program in Florida called Florida Prepaid. Florida Prepaid allows you to pay in today's dollars for college tuition. So there's a significantly reduced amount that you have to pay in order to cover college. So we'll talk about that as well. Okay? And then the other things are, we definitely want to do some estate planning. So you guys right now don't have a will, you don't have any kind of healthcare directive. So we want to make sure we put that in place, and details of that going forward. I'm going to skip this page only because we don't have a ton of time, but you're free to go through this when you get home, and if you have any questions, feel get back to me later. I really want to make sure we cover some important topics during our meeting today. So the tax analysis, this is a big one. I did a simulated tax analysis for you, and this just kind of shows the inputs that I put in. And what I discovered is that you are going to be getting approximately $12,000 in a refund. So what I would like to do is take that $12,000 and use it to pay down that high interest rate credit card. The other thing that we can take away from this analysis is that you're probably withholding way too much right now. Right now, you're withholding $15,000 per year. You probably can decrease that to about $6,000 per year. What I would recommend is when you meet with your CPA, bring this up. You can even take this report with you and see what the CPA says and get some recommendations on what you should reduce your actual tax withholding to. That'll greatly increase your cash flow basis. So on to your most important goal is putting the kids through college at Florida State. So I went to Florida State's website, and the total cost, including housing, tuition and fees, books, food, everything, is an estimated $18,000 per year. If you just cover tuition and fees, that's about $6,500 per year. Looking at the Florida prepaid plan, you can actually fully fund tuition and fees for all 3 children for only $337 per month. If you fund full tuition and fees plus room and board through the Florida prepaid plan, it would be about $1,000 per month. So we'll really look at what you can afford to fund, but I know you'll at least be able to fund the $337 per month, and that will at least cover tuition and fees for all 3 children. So I think that's really great. I did include a package for you in your client binder that has all of the information about the Florida prepaid plan as well as the tuition information from Florida State University. So one of the other things, I usually encourage parents to look at scholarships. In fact, Florida State University has a list of scholarships right there on the admissions website. So that's a great way for you to make your children be invested in this. Make sure that they have a stake in it too, whether it's them getting good grades, playing sports, working through college, some kind of contribution on their part as well. And then, like I mentioned, scholarships. I had one client that told me that she had her daughter wake up every morning during summer vacation and apply for 3 scholarships the entire summer. And she was able to fund almost all of her college tuition. So there's a lot of things we can do. And so we can talk about that in the future as well. If you want to have a meeting with your children, I'm happy to do that as well. That would be fun. So on to the next goal, which was debt reduction. And I think this is where we can really have a huge impact. So you have these different debts that you have. I listed everything here, plus the interest rate, the payments. You are paying about $4,100 per month just in debt payments, okay? By refinancing the mortgage and paying off some of this debt, I think we can actually reduce this down to $1,800 a month. That would free up almost $2,400 per month for you to start using towards that emergency fund and also increasing contributions to your retirement accounts and also other savings. So let's go through this really quick. For the credit card, I'm recommending that you take that tax return of $12,000 plus sell the ATV. I don't think it's worth having that risk and having the additional expense of insuring it. So I think, selling the ATV and using the tax return, that would fully pay off the credit card. Then for the student loan, that I would highly recommend refinancing. I have other clients that have recently done this, and they've been able to get a rate as low as 3%. So I utilize a rate of 5% just to be conservative. If you were to refinance this from 10% to 5%, you'd be able to pay this off a lot faster and you'd save on the interest expense. Then for the bank loan and the auto loan, I'm recommending, Jackie, that you sell stock A and use the proceeds, which are approximately $24,000, to fully just pay off that bank loan and pay off that auto loan. By doing all of this, you're significantly reducing the amount of payments that you have to pay out each month on debt. And then lastly, but probably most importantly, is the mortgage. Right now, interest rates are at historical lows. So there's a huge opportunity for you to refinance and lock in a rate of 4%. And when you think about a mortgage, you're paying on this for 30 years. So the interest expense that you pay is very, very high. And if you can reduce that, that's something I recommend without a doubt. I estimate that if you can refinance at 4%, that'll bring your payments down to $1,300 per month versus the $1,900 that you're paying now. There are some refinancing costs. I estimate that would be about $4,000 in total fees, which you'll have once we kind of implement these recommendations. Any questions? All right, let's move on. How your results. From a risk management standpoint, we kind of covered these earlier, but I'll go over them briefly again. Jackie and John purchased that term life insurance, increased the limits on the auto insurance. John, I'm recommending that you increase coverage on disability. We talked about that, shopping around for homeowners. And then additionally, your insurance agent recommended that you purchase an umbrella policy. I would agree with that. I would agree that you need to go ahead and purchase the $1 million personal liability umbrella policy. This will cover you for any unforeseen incidents and just really protect your security. So let's look at portfolio recommendations. Right now, the investments that you have are primarily 100% invested in stock, which we would typically deem as high risk, especially in one concentrated stock. So when you're investing, the way to kind of reduce risk and increase efficiency is to diversify. And based on the risk tolerance questionnaire that we completed, you scored a 19 on that, which gives me a recommendation of what type of portfolio you should have. And being that you're so young and we're mostly planning for retirement, this would be a long-term horizon. So based on that, this is how I would recommend we reallocate those investments. Okay, there's not a significant tax situation there, so we can easily sell that stock and reinvest into a more diversified portfolio. So I'll help you with that. Forward. From an estate planning standpoint, this is very, very important. I'm not an attorney, so I can't actually do estate planning for you. I can't draft any legal documents, but I can refer you to an estate planning attorney, or you can use someone that you already know. But I think it's really, really important for you guys to at least have a will for each of you, being that you have children. Having a will that has provisions for the children is really important, because if something happens to you both, you want to be able to designate who you want caring for the children. You definitely don't want to leave that in the court's hands. The other thing is healthcare directives. If something were to happen to you, this states what you would want to happen in the case that there are healthcare decisions that need to be made. This also can appoint someone else to make healthcare decisions for you, so you can appoint each other. Thirdly, the durable power of attorney. You need to have that. And you may also want to go ahead and establish a revocable living trust. You can basically title all of the assets in this that aren't already titled, like jointly or something like that. So, for example, your home would be a great example of what you can put in the living trust. Here is a summary of all of the recommendations. We've already gone over this, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time here, but you're welcome to review this at home, and again, contact me for questions. What I wanted to show you here is the before and after. So this is a pie chart just showing your income statement before recommendations and after, and this is a 5-year projection. Here, we're reducing your tax spending to 18%. We're significantly reducing debt from 59% to 16%. These are in terms of your expenditures. We're slightly increasing the insurance because of my recommendations to purchase a few different policies. And then we're greatly enhancing savings from 7% all the way up to 20%. You can see below the benchmarks of where the target would be, and based on the recommendations, we're really in line with those targets now. On your balance sheet, when you compare the current scenario versus the 5-year projections, you can see that we are significantly increasing your cash and investments, and on the chart below, we're significantly reducing your liabilities and increasing your net worth. Here I've included a SWOT analysis looking at the current economic environment and the associated strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. There's a huge focus here on the interest rate environment, with rates being near all-time lows and the threat of rates increasing. I will be re-emphasizing the recommendation to refinance the mortgage and lock that in at a lower rate. Let's discuss the next steps. What I've done here is created a to-do list with actionable items that we need to complete immediately in the short term as well as long term. And I have a list here. What we want to take care of immediately is refinancing the mortgage. We want to use that tax return to pay down the credit card and also sell that ATV and use the proceeds towards the balance on the credit card. We're then going to sell stock A and use the proceeds to pay off the bank loan and the car loan and refinance the student loan, as well as increase the auto insurance coverage. In the short term, we're going to make sure that we meet with an estate planning attorney to execute the legal documents that you need, purchase that term life insurance, also save aggressively towards an emergency fund, and purchase new disability insurance, as well as enroll the children in the Florida prepaid college plan. And then long term, we really want to focus on additional planning and increasing education funding as well as retirement savings. We covered a lot of information in a very short period of time. So if there's any questions at all, feel free to ask me. And you also have the ability to contact me via email or phone if there's any questions that arise after our meeting. Today we reviewed the results of your financial plan and also discussed recommendations. The next important step is implementation of those recommendations. We're here to help you with that process and walk you through it. It's also very important that we have ongoing reviews, and I try to at least meet with clients once per year and also have a quarterly phone call. This can really be customized to your wants and desires, so if you choose to meet more often than that, we can certainly arrange that. And if you don't want to meet as often, we do again recommend that we meet at least once per year. With that, I just want to thank you. I thank you for your partnership as well. I think planning is very, very important, so I'm glad that you took the step to come in and meet. I've included an appendix in your client binder that has all of the documents included. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to give me a call. I know that we're running over time, so let me end here. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I look forward to our next meeting.